We're still spinning, so I'll wait. Here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. It is good to be here with you. I am Eva, Reverend Eva, but I prefer Eva, and I am with the Wounded Souls Ministry. And I had a complete change. So this is kind of an impromptu. And I just want you to know that when I do these videos, they're raw videos. There's no like editing them or anything. So um, only because I don't know how. And every time I do, I mess it up. So, or every time I try, I mess it up. Um, so I was kind of going on the idea all week of member, remembering others, because we had Mother's Day, beginning of May, and then we have Memorial Day, the end of May, and then June, first week of June is my mom's birthday. So it's like a lot of memories. And Memorial Day is all about remembering um, the soldiers, service people that gave the ultimate sacrifice, which is always very personal and emotional for me, um, patriotic. So I went to chapel where I go and kind of renew my fellowship with my mentor, and I came home and I started piddling around, um, and I am again changing things around my place of residence, and that comment that I hear so often, how um, a lot of people will say, I hate change, I don't like change, and um, and I guess I've always welcomed change. In fact, I recall in my days of being married, I kind of think of the couple. The man comes home from work and he's expecting everything to be in the same place and not really paying attention when he walks through the door, and all of a sudden he's tripping over a chair that was never there before. And that's kind of how my house was. I was always changing furniture. It was like to thoroughly clean meant to just move everything and put it all back differently. And I did this constantly. And when my children got older, I would drive them crazy with the same thing. They would have the same feeling. It's like, why are you always changing everything? Why you change the furniture all the time? Why can't you just leave it alone? And it's like I like change. I like it looking different, and I've always kind of been like that. And then I've found so many of my spiritual journeys through change. And I haven't had just one spiritual awakening and spiritual journey. I've had many of them, and it was always after some type of chaos or commotion or internal reflection. But it was always like, I don't want to call it a volcano because it's not always that. It's just like an epiphany, where all of a sudden it was like, I'm going to do this now. And I've done that with education. I've done that with, um, you know, places that I wanted to move to. Just, jobs, many different types of jobs I've had. And some might say that's because you're a fly by night. But, I think it's because I get bored and I just want to experience so many things in this lifetime. And I've never been afraid of change. I actually, when I decide to change something, I'm actually very welcoming for it. So, I was like, and then I'm like saying, gee, why don't I just do this impromptu and, turn this whole Bible um, lecture or whatever you want to call this spiritual, we'll call it a spiritual class or coaching, and turn this into what I do today. And I have so many people. I've always heard, I hate change. I hate change. I remember as a teacher, we'd get a new administrator or a new regulation, and it would be so many teachers like, I hate change. I hate change. And as far as regs go, I think there's way too many of them. Period. But um, it's like I just have always felt that whenever change comes into our lives, it's a way for us to kind of take a deep breath in and release the old and welcome the new. And, I just, I don't know, I guess my attitude about change is a little bit different. And I was thinking, as I was getting ready to do the video, I, the question is, what does the Bible say about change? And, I know that we as human experiencing the human life, we go through many changes. And just take a mom, for example. I think many women know they're pregnant before the any kind of test could even tell them, because our bodies tell us we go through a change, and then for the next 9 months our bodies change, we change with it, and then we have the child, and then our lives change forever. And so it's a change. And do we say, oh, I hate this? No, we welcome it. We welcome that change. We grow with it, and that's what change has always done for me. It's always an opportunity to grow into something better. And if I don't grow with it, there's probably going to be another change that I may not welcome along the way. So, we go through life, and we go from, look at our school years. We start out kindergarten, elementary, middle school, high school. Our bodies change along with our education, and then we go off to college, and then we become, husbands and wives, maybe, or not, or career people. It's all change, and we are always evolving throughout this life. And life is all about a constant revolution of changes. I shouldn't say revolving of changes. I don't like that word, revolution. So it's, so it is a welcoming energy, change. And I think of one of my spirit animals, and also one of my loved ones come back as a yellow monarch butterfly for me. It's my mom, and she visits me often in my yard, especially if I'm out, doing a reading or something out in my yard or something spiritual. That yellow monarch butterfly will be right there, like right there, all around me, and I know it's mom saying, "Hey, how are you? I'm watching you." I know it sounds crazy for some people to believe that, but a lot of people believe that cardinals come back to visit us. They're our loved ones, and feathers and pennies from heaven. It's a song, and things like that. It's like, that has nothing to do with the change. But um, if you think about a butterfly, is what I was going to say. Is if you think about a butterfly, the change that a butterfly experiences, it's a caterpillar. Some are very beautiful and pretty, and some are not so beautiful and pretty, but they're still God's creatures. And they go into the cocoon, and then I may not get this word right, they liquidify before they turn into a metamorphosis, become a metamorphosis of, in a transformation into this beautiful butterfly. And that's like a beautiful example of change. And, it's to me, change is all about having another opportunity to grow with God. You either go without God or you grow with God. And I've always kind of like, oh yeah, something new, I like it. And maybe sometimes I like it too much. That's like a lot of times I'll start things and not finish them. I get bored with it and go on to something else, which isn't a good thing, but I'm a work in progress here. So I was thinking back in the Bible, a lot of the stories in the Bible, and I'm not going to name them all because there are so many, so many stories of change. But Adam and Eve, if you look at Adam and Eve, they went from not not having knowledge, not eating from the tree of knowledge, and not being aware of their man womanhood. And then they ate from the tree of knowledge, so they knew everything and became aware. And then when that happened, they were thrown out of Eden into the cave, the dark cave, um, and they had to learn to live their lives under this whole new environment. And they constantly called upon God because they were scared, because they didn't know what to do, they didn't know what was happening. And angels were constantly coming and helping them through, so that they didn't shrivel up and die. They wanted to keep the human energy going on this earth. And eventually they acclimated to their environment, and they never were able to go back to the Garden of Eden, but they acclimated constantly and became very fruitful in the world outside of Eden. The other person that comes to mind for me is Abram, who became Abraham. And he was told to go, take his people and go. And he had to go to a place he knew nothing of. But he trusted in the Lord, and he did as the Lord asked, and he moved forward and was able to go into a new land and create a new nation. And it wasn't because, he sat there and said, I hate change, I hate change, as his wife may have. I think she was very bitter and angry for a lot of the time that he did that. But, and that's probably why it took so long for her to have a baby. I don't know. That's just my sarcasm coming out. I'm sorry. But um, that was a change. And then there were a lot of things in their world, him having Ishmael first and then Isaac. Those are all changes, and adapting to those changes, and always, always, always going back to God for guidance. And God never stops us from our error. He doesn't stop it, He allows it. But He's always there when we're ready to face it. And that's the beauty of God. So, however we handle these changes that come about, there's no, I guess there is a wrong way, but it's choice. God gives us choices, what paths we want to take. And whatever path that comes with those changes, there's consequences to them, and they can be good consequences or bad consequences. But no matter what, we always have God and other beings, supreme beings, there to help us along the way. The other one that went through major changes was Noah. Um, building that ark under all kinds of ridicule, people laughing at him and thinking he was a jokester, and just having to do all that, and then all the work of building the ark. He wasn't a young man at the time. And then it was gathering all the animals that would go into the ark. And then it was being on the sea. Now that's a major change. In the sea on a boat for 40 nights, 40 days, 40 nights. And not only that, but watching all the people drowning. Imagine the change that goes within your heart, in your spirit when you're watching all that. There's nothing you can do about it. So there's a lot of change there. And then we have Enoch, who became Metatron, and Enoch walked walked God walked the earth with Enoch, and then he took Enoch as a human being to heaven. So imagine that, going to heaven without even dying. Um, that's a major change. In Elijah, the same thing happened with Elijah. Elijah faced many obstacles along his path, and he he battled with the king of Baal, and who was bringing a lot of dark energies into the world. And Elijah fought against that, and then he turned over his leaf or his path to his son and went up to heaven also, and he became Sandalphon. Sandalphon. And then we had the Virgin Mary. I mean, imagine the change she went through. I mean, accepting the fact that somebody, a spirit impregnated her. Joseph accepting the idea of taking care of this woman that was impregnated by spirit. All these events throughout the times, biblical times. And then if we look at our current history, just all the changes that we have gone through in this world. And the one thing that's always been constant and consistent, not constant, but constant too, in all of it is God. Um, the one thing that never changes is God. And that's why the Bible still works today. All the stories in the Bible, all the teachings of Christ, they're teachings that were meant to last forever and ever and ever. They didn't need to be watered down, they didn't need to be changed, because they were the truth that God and Jesus wanted all of their people to know, so that we could become the best beings on this earth. And I just want to read a couple of the scriptures that go along with this, if I can find them now. Here we go. Hebrews 13:8. And this is about how it's consistent and constant. There's certain things that never change. We change, but our faith should never change. We have experiences that bring us to new lights in the world, but our faith should always be, if anything, it might change. I mean, I know my spirituality and faith has changed a lot. I went from believing as a young child that God was a fearing, cruel God. I didn't believe he was kind and loving, and I didn't think of him as a father, watching over me and taking care of me. Um, I always thought of God as a very mean and punishing God, and and that was the upbringing that I had. That's what I heard when I went to church, and that's what I heard when I went to a very small time in Catholic school. That's what I heard. Not everyone, not everyone has that experience. That's the experience I had. Um, and I'm not going to say I'm not bashing anyone's religion. I'm just saying that that's that's what I heard and that's what I believed. And it wasn't until much later in life. I mean, when I was a teenager, I was questioning God, and I said the same thing as so many other people. If there was a God, why would this be happening? Why would that be happening? And then I understood that they don't happen because of God, they happen because of us. That's not a God thing. That's a human being thing. And because we have the choice in our lives to direct our lives the way we want, we bring the error, we bring the dark energies. God doesn't do that. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I could come to that concept. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of souls like myself, and that's why my ministry is called the Wounded Souls, for wounded souls and lost souls um, looking to repair whatever images or ideas that were set in stone way back, and looking to remove those stones and build a new foundation. So we have Hebrews 13, verse 8. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Again, never changes. We may change, our belief systems may change. Hopefully, they get stronger. We may have periods of time when we question and doubt. Um, we might we may experience things that might even have us be angry with God. I know when my 15-year-old son died, I had people saying, "Weren't you angry with God?" And it was like, well, no, because I believe that, and thank God I had some spirituality at the time. If I didn't have spirituality, I don't know what I would have felt about it. But because I had spirituality, I I felt like my son was now up there, wherever there is, with God, and God was keeping him safe. I didn't have to worry about him anymore because he was living a very fast, dangerous life, and I knew that he was still with me. His soul was still with me. His spirit was still with me. It was just this physical body that was removed from this earth. That doesn't mean I wouldn't have liked to have had a lifelong life with him, that I wouldn't have liked to have seen him have children, and be married and, have a wonderful life. I would have loved that, but that wasn't that wasn't what he chose. He chose to live that life, and it took him down a different path. And I chose to accept the path that he chose and not blame God, um, if that makes any sense to you. So then we have, I want to find, there was one especially I wanted to read. Okay, here's Matthew 6:25, and this one's all about people that are very consumed with appearance and kind of having the best of everything. Therefore, I tell you, Matthew 6:25. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? So again, it's saying, come to me, worry about me, bring not me, God. Bring God into your life, and you won't have to worry about any of these other things. Um, it was the one, I can't find the one that I wanted to read, and it says, it's actually the picture on my thumbnail, that the one thing, no, that's not it. I have it in my book here. Hold it. We have, it says, this is Malachi chapter 3, verse 6. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. So again, the one thing in your life that should never ever change is your belief in God and Christ. And if you are walking on a God path and a Christ path and going within and finding the truth, you are going to be in a very beautiful place. And that's been assured. And it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what the outside circumstances are. Um, I a lot of people measure their life and how good it is by how many things they have and how much money's in the bank and what kind of clothes they're wearing and just the food, eating, the best of everything. And I've been doing a lot of researching the holy diet, and it was like the food that God planned for us, that has every nutrient, it has everything there is to have is in this diet. And it's like it's less than it's less than a dozen different types of food. And if you live on those foods, you will be healthy, and healthy as far as mind, body, spirit goes, and soul. People talk about soul food. Well, this is food for the soul, food for the spirit, food for the mind, and food for the body. And I am looking forward to, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff is hard to get, but I am looking forward to bringing all of that into my life, and having a God diet, along with, a God daily path, and being grateful for what I do have, and not be worrying about what everybody else has or doesn't have, and focusing on the gifts that I've been given. And I've been given many gifts. And I sometimes forget that. I forget about the numerous blessings I have been given. And when I do focus on the gifts that I've received, there's a major change in me. And having an attitude of gratitude is a blessing. So, again, this was, a little impromptu, little scripture Scripture chat. I like that. So, here is our weekly scripture chat. Um, and this, was just something that came up because I'm changing. I'm changing my environment again. And I'm looking forward to the change. I think it's going to be nice, and it's going to be set up nice, and it's going to give me some privacy, and my animals will be able to be out in the privacy with me. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. And I hope that you look forward to any of the changes that are coming for you in your life today, tomorrow, and always. And I certainly look forward to all of my tomorrows, whatever the changes may be. And may God bless you, your family, and all of those around you. and have a very blessed week. And we'll see you again next week.